some of the first people involved with the right to censor were Val Venus, who was a porn star and also a wrestler, I guess. I do both. And The Godfather, who was a pimp and also a wrestler. And I'm like, listen, I don't know a whole lot about money, but I would have guessed that porn star and pimp, you could probably make enough money to get by. Right? You don't need a second job.
I mean, I don't know what the going rate of porn stars and pimps was in the year 2000, so I don't know.
Were they on a salary or,
like,
$0 contract,
Do they get commission? I don't know.
Commission? Oh, that's... why you gotta... No, okay.
Hey, guess what? It's time for Making Kayfabe with your hosts, Bryce and Dylan.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another fantastic episode of Making Kayfabe with myself and my good friend Bryce. We go back through wrestling history to pick out some of the stranger storylines to try to rewrite them and make them a little bit better, make them a little bit more palatable. How about that? That's a good one.
Yeah, nice. Palatable.
Yeah, we're very educated people.
Someone's been eating a thesaurus today.
It did not taste good.
No.
It was awful. It's very chewy. I didn't think it was chewy, but my jaw hurts. Anyway, don't worry about it.
I won't.
We'll talk about that in a different podcast. But today it's my turn to pick a subject from wrestling history and to try and rewrite it. And the one I decided to write up on was one that's very near and dear to my heart, because it's something that I think was definitely underutilized at the time and was seen as more of a joke. And I think the WWF and WWE do that a lot, where they do something that actually does get over, but they only did it as a joke. With no intention of it getting over. So once it does start to make waves, they just forget about it because it's not part of their plan. You know what I mean? Like, that kind of shit happens way too often these days.
It happens so often. Like, you remember Damien Sandow when he became Mizdow, and it was a stupid thing and it wasn't meant to get over, but it did. Yeah. And then, they stopped it in its tracks, basically. I remember that.
Yeah.
Especially the thing you mentioned we're going to do today, on today, that's a big thing, a part of it as well.
I think so. We're gonna talk about the right to censor, and I think that they were a great heel team, and they could have went really far if, they bothered to have the push behind them. But I feel like the WWF at the time just made the group as a kind of reaction to the criticism they'd be getting from other sources and stuff like that. And then instead of actually using, because they got a lot of heel heat, and instead of using them for that, they were just it's just a satire on people who annoy us, I'm like, well, that's not a good way to, do business. What do I know? I'm not a businessman. I'm not a wrestler. Bryce, of course, is both.
Yes, I am both, indeed. Were the right to censor or not? They were made because they're meant to be a parody of something,
yes,
people who are parents submitting complaints to to the WWF for something that their child's seen on television and it's not very nice, and maybe they saw Mae Young give birth to a hand, or things like that. But that's what it basically was, wasn't it?
Yes. And so because of the kind of risky, I don't know what that means. Cut that bit out. Because of some of the riskier, no, fuck you. Because of some of the riskier storylines and characters they were pulling up, when the right to censor formed, they the Godfather and Val Venus. When the right to censor formed, they just added those controversial characters into the right to censor, which appeased the parents and also angered the fans because everybody loved Val Venus, I guess, And
I wouldn't go that far.
Everybody appreciated. Everybody saw Val Venus.
He was definitely there.
He was definitely there. So that got instant heat from the fans because they felt like these popular characters were being changed and ruined and stuff like this. So I'm like, instead of just doing that to get those people off your back, why didn't you capitalize that? Make something out of it. So I'm gonna try and do that today. I'm gonna try and make the right to censor something really good. Side note for everybody, I've been hyping this one up for weeks.
Oh yeah.
So Bryce is like, they should better deliver.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. You've been talking about this for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I wasn't expecting you to do it so soon. But I mean,
No.
I'm ready. I know
Well,
I'm ready.
I started writing it because I thought it would take me a long time to write it. So I'm like, I'll start work on it, last week. And then just as I started writing it, I just kept going. I'm like, what if this happens? And then and then I just ended up with five pages. There were
Wow.
5. This is the most I've ever written for any of these Making Kayfabe episodes so far. So it's very detailed.
It's incredible.
It is gonna be incredible.
5 pages of notes. I can't, or at least 3 of them on Boba Cannon.
Well, like 2 of them, or like 1.5, is like the history of the Right to Censor.
Boba Cannon.
Well, of course, the best one.
Mm.
Easily the best one. Am I right? Yeah,
Right.
Of course I'm right. Anyway, what say I dive in and do the storyline? How about that?
Go for it.
Because this could take a while. So let's strap yourselves in and get ready for some fun times with the Right to Censor. So let's start off with some history about the whole group and all the people in the group. It basically starts off with Stevie Richards. Stevie Richards came into the WWF in the middle of 1999, I think, maybe like early 1999. Oh, hang on, there it is. I have the notes. I'm so good. He came in on August 15th, 1999, which was right before SummerSlam, I believe. And he came in around the same time as the Blue Meanie. The Blue Meanie came in first, and then Stevie Richards came in, and they kind of hung out together like they used to do in ECW. But that didn't really go anywhere, except for very briefly, the Blue Meanie and Stevie Richards got together to create something called the Blonde Bitch Project.
What?
Do you know this? Have you heard this?
No, I've never heard of that.
Oh, it was supposed to be a spoof of the Blair Witch Project.
The Blonde Bitch Project.
Yeah, I think it was supposed to be about Sable, because I think Sable had left the company, and they were like, well, we'll show her by calling her a bitch, So they were going to do this like spoof of the Blair Witch Project, but Vince McMahon didn't know what the Blair Witch Project was, so he canceled the whole thing. Typical. Am I right? I think they had like they did like one vignette of it on TV, and then it was canceled after that, so nobody knew what the fuck that was supposed to be.
You think Vince McMahon's ever seen any movie in his life?
It doesn't seem like it, does it? What the fuck, man? Okay, so after that, Stevie Richards started doing this little another gimmick that goes over really well, where you impersonate other wrestlers.
Oh yeah.
So he did that way before Charlie Haas, way before, who else did that? Damien Sandow, was he doing
Sandow,
it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So somebody else?
I'm pretty sure there was some Viscera.
I mean, probably.
I think it was Viscera. It used to come out pretending to be Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah, Viscera, Stone Cold Viscera Austin. You've got Viscera Dudley. You've got Headbanger Viscera.
We'll have Headbanger Viscera very soon, I imagine.
Oh, I'm sure.
Once we rewrite history. So Stevie Richards was coming out as like Dude Love and like a Dudley Boy and stuff. I actually remember him doing this like when I started watching wrestling. I remember watching an episode where Val Venus came out and did the thing gimmick with a towel he does, where he's wearing a towel around his waist. Yeah. And Stevie Richards came out too with a towel around his waist. But then when it came time to take it off, he realized he wasn't wearing any trunks underneath his towel, so he had to run backstage. I'm like, that's the first time I ever saw Stevie Richards, and I'm like, okay, this is the guy, Classic gimmick. So after, for some reason, this gimmick didn't get him over. Who would have saw that coming? So he disappeared for a little bit, and then he eventually came back the June 26th, 2000, as Steven Richards. It was different. Stevie Richards had long hair and was called Stevie, but Steven Richards had short hair and was called Steven.
Oh.
So you can see there's a big difference. Also, he changed his ring attire. He would come out with a shirt and tie and, the black trousers and stuff and black shoes. He looked very smart. And he declared that he was now against like all the risque behavior and all the crazy storylines and all the sex and the violence and all the puppies. Like he was just opposed to the whole thing because it was morally wrong. It was gonna give our children bad thoughts. It was an awful, awful thing. That's what Stevie Richards said.
Quick
Stevie
side note: how cool would it be if just there's wrestlers who just kind of properized their names and made a different gimmick out of themselves? So, Stevie to Steven Richards. You've got maybe Scotty Too Hottie to Scott Hottie. You've got Robert Van Dam. You've got it's endless. Stone Cold Stephen Austin.
They did it with Bobby Roode.
Robert Roode. I mean, he was Robert Roode in
Roode.
TNA, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm. So there you go, Mr. Robert Roode.
Mr. Robert Roode.
And it worked. He was a real, Bobby, he's fun-loving, he's a face. Robert Roode, he's a heel.
Got a mustache.
Exactly. A glorious mustache, I may add. But
glorious, I like it.
A sidebar. So at this point, Steven Richards, I'm so sorry. I'm so used to calling him Stevie Richards. But we're talking about Steven Richards to try to make his own little group called the Right to Censor. And this was a satire of the PTC, which stood for Parents Television Council.
Ah.
And they were always hounding the WWF and being like, why is so much violence in your wrestling program? Well, what the hell? So you didn't see it coming. So they formed this group to try and appease that. And like I said earlier, some of the first people involved with the Right to Censor were Val Venus, who was a porn star and also a wrestler, I guess. I do both. And the Godfather, who was a pimp and also a wrestler. And I'm like, listen, I don't know a whole lot about money, but I would have guessed that porn star and pimp, you could probably make enough money to get by. Right? You don't need a second job.
I mean, I don't know what the going rate of porn stars and pimps was in the year 2000, so I don't know.
Were they on a salary or,
like,
0-hour contract,
Do they get commission? I don't know.
Commission? Oh, that's... why you gotta... Well, no, okay. Whew. So anyway, both of those characters were quite kind of on the nose and they were a bit much, really. So they were... I think Stevie Richards beat them in a match or I can't remember exactly how he got them into the group, but he was able to persuade the Goodfather and Val Venus to come to his side. He had Bull Buchanan with him, as we've covered, because Bull Buchanan had fuck all else to do. So put him in a shirt and tie, right?
What was Bill Buchanan before? If Godfather was a pimp and Val Venus was a porn star, what the fuck was Bill Buchanan?
He was a prison guard because he was aligned with the Big Boss Man.
Oh, right.
So
I was expecting an actual answer to that.
The Big Boss Man and Bill Buchanan were a team. They were a tag team in 1999, I guess.
Okay.
So Buchanan would come out with the same kind of gear as Boss Man. So I assume he worked in a prison. It'd be weird if I just like dressing like this guy. He's my best friend. I like his shirt. So anyway, now we've got 4 members of the Right to Censor. Steven Richards, the Goodfather, no longer the Godfather, he's the Goodfather. Val Venus, who didn't get a name change for some reason. It's his second name still sounds like penis. He could probably have done something with that one. And Bull Buchanan. So we got 4 of them, which is pretty cool. Later on, Ivory joins the group. A couple of months later, I think. So already the Right to Censor start to get in the face of other people who are evil, I guess, or immoral, I should say. So, or people who don't share their glorious vision for the future. Let's put it that way. So at SummerSlam 2000, Richards, Buchanan, and the Goodfather beat Too Cool in a 6-man tag team match. So they're already off to a big start, beating Too Cool. You know what I mean? Yeah, you know what I mean. At Unforgiven 2000, they beat the Acolytes and the Dudley Boys in an 8-man tag team match. So there's, good team unity. That's okay, cool. At No Mercy, Stevie Richards and Val Venus beat Mr. Ass in China. So, that's good for the group because, intergender wrestling is wrong. Like beating up a woman, not cool. Also, one of the people in this match is called Mr. Ass. Probably not good. Let's try to change him.
Mr. Bottom.
Yeah, Mr. Butt,
Mr. Butt.
Mr. Dr. Enos, That's a sidebar. I thought it'd be funny if like somebody had a wrestling name and his name was Dr. Anus, and people would be like, you can't call a wrestler that. I'm like, well, there was a guy called Mr. Ass.
Yeah.
Everybody just went along with that. They're like, yep, that's him. Like, why did we think that was a cool thing?
Suppose you could call him Drainus.
Drainus, exactly.
Yeah,
it's funny. There's loads.
Dr. Anus.
Yeah, but also like, what if that was just really his second name? He's like, stop making fun of me. That's just I'm a doctor and my second name happens to be Anus. Please.
Surely it's not a last name. Surely Anus is not someone's last name.
Well, it's wrestling. You can, you can make stuff up. Don't worry about it. Anyway, that's a side.
You keep going on. I'm gonna search that.
Okay, you look up Dr. Anus on Google and see what happens. So what else happened? Oh, also with No Mercy, the Good Father and Bobby Cannon lost a Dudley Boys Invitational table match. So there you go. Also, here's a fun fact for you, Bryce. No Mercy 2000 also had the 5-star classic, which was William Regal versus Naked Midian.
Oh, I actually remember that match because Regal was trying to put on the Regal stretch, and because Midian's naked, he didn't really want to do it.
Understandable. Yeah. It's understandable, I think. I wouldn't want to do it either, but so
besmirched.
Obviously, No Mercy 2000, a classic show. So then, right after that, I rejoined the group. So she was the women's champion at the time, so already brought some gold, brought a bit of class to the group. You know what I mean? Because Ivory, she's a class act. And then at the Survivor Series 2000. Good Father and Bull Buchanan teamed with Edge and Christian, but they lost a Survivor Series match against the Dudleys and the Hardy Boys. Dang it. Although Ivory beat Lita for the Women's Championship, or retained her Women's Championship over Lita. So, all right, Ivory's still putting the work in. On an episode of Raw in November, right before Survivor Series, the Right to Censor beat the Hardy Boys for the Tag Team Championships.
Was that Venus and Godfather?
It was Bull Buchanan and Godfather.
Ah, okay.
Good Father, I should say. I'm sorry. So there you go, Bull Buchanan. We got some gold. So now we've got Ivory and Bull Buchanan and Good Father bringing the goods for the team. That's pretty cool. At Armageddon 2000, in December, the Right to Censor lost their tag team championships to Edge and Christian in a 4-way tag match. It also had the Dudley Boys in it, and everyone's favorite tag team, Road Dogg and K-Quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, remember that?
Quick, R-Truth. Yeah,
back in the day.
Getting ready.
Yeah, well, they did their best, which wasn't a whole lot. Ivory, on the same show, Ivory retained her Women's Championship against Trish and Molly Holly, and Val Venus beat Chyna. So, they lost the belts, but they beat up Chyna, so swings and roundabouts. Royal Rumble 2001, Ivory retains against Chyna, but surprisingly, the Right to Censor did not win the Royal Rumble. Nobody in the group even came close.
It's ridiculous.
They did their best, but couldn't do it. So things are looking a little patchy for the Right to Censor. Here comes No Way Out 2001. Steven Richards fights Jerry the King Lawler. You remember this?
No, I don't.
This was a feud over the Cat.
Ah.
The Cat was fed up of the Right to Censor and their bullshit, so she said, if you have the right to censor, I have the right to just be nude all the time. This is real.
Reasonable.
This is 100% true. This is the Attitude Era. So obviously the Right to Censor didn't like this. Jerry Lawler, as a big advocate for women getting naked, was all for this. So Steven Richards and Jerry Lawler had a fight at No Way Out. And if Jerry Lawler won, the Right to Censor had to break up. I'm not sure. But if Steven Richards won, the Cat would have to join the Right to Censor. Ooh, more heel heat. Can you imagine if the exhibitionist Cat was forced to join the Right to Censor?
Could you imagine?
People would hate that, wouldn't they? They sure
Yeah.
would. So, do you know what happens in this?
I don't remember. No, I don't.
Oh, well, Steven Richards beats Jerry Lawler. So the Cat now has to join the Right to Censor. Big news. However, a week or two after this, the Cat is released from the WWF, and Jerry Lawler decides to leave with her because I believe they were married at the time. I think so. So Jerry Lawler's out. That's why in 2001, Paul Heyman was a commentator. Because Jerry Lawler left after No Way Out. So that seemed like a big win for the right to censor, but also the storyline went nowhere because the Cat and Jerry Lawler left. So that's a bit of a bummer. Kind of ruined their momentum. At WrestleMania 2001, China finally beats Ivory for the Women's Championship. But then I think China leaves pretty shortly after that, so it made it all kind of pointless.
So
it was
who really won?
Yeah, like just keep, Ivory should still be the champion. She should still be the champion right now.
She should. She's awesome.
She is. She's amazing. Let me see what else happened. Bobby Cannon, the Good Father, and Val Venus lost to the APA and Taz in 6-man tag team match. Another classic, Stone Cold classic. So I think in April, I've written April 2006. That's not correct. April 26th, 2001. The Undertaker just fights all 4 members of the Right to Censor.
What?
Yeah, just like I'll fight him. So he fights all 4 of these men. Guess who wins that match?
Not the Undertaker, surely.
The Undertaker beats 4 men.
Ah, jobbers.
So he beats them all up, and then he hits the last ride on Steven Richards. Richards is down. The other members of the Right to Censor kind of walk away, and they're fed up of him. And Richards is like, this can't end like this. So after a week or two, I think maybe a month or two, he disappears for a bit, and he comes back with Chronic.
Chronic?
Remember Chronic?
I remember Chronic. Yeah.
So
WCW.
Yeah, so now he's the manager of Chronic, and he's really pissed at The Undertaker, because he's like, you ruined my Right to Censor, so now I've got Chronic, who are named after smoking weed, and we're going to beat the shit out of you. So Undertaker's like, I got my brother right here, Kane, and the Brothers of Destruction beat up Chronic pretty well, and beat up Stevie Richards as well. So that's it. That's the way the Right to Censor ended. That was it. They had one brief tag team championship reign and a very good women's championship reign, and they got beat up by The Undertaker.
It's a damn shame.
Right. It's a wasted potential. Because I remember when I first started watching, there were 2 people that I hated the most, or 2 things I hated the most. One was Kurt Angle, because he was a slimy heel, and he just was the champion at the time, and he kept sneaking out of the he would always leave the show with the championship, even though he was clearly beaten. Typical
sneaky
heel stuff.
And it was great.
It was so good. Looking back on it now, it was so good, because at the time I bought into it 100%. And the other 2 people I hated the most were the Right to Censor, because at the time I'm like, you can't make Val Venus into a not a porn star. That's ridiculous. They were just really annoying, and I was like, oh, so angry at them. But really, I'm like, well, they were great at getting heel heat, because that's exactly what they did. They were taking people's favorite wrestlers and turning them into straight-laced kind of people, with the the questionable kind of motive being, oh, it's for your own good, it's for morality, And there was so much wasted kind of potential, I think. So let me try to figure out a good way to make the Right to Censor seem like a bunch of kick-ass fucking people.
All right, I'm all for it. Go for it, man.
All right. So let's see. Steven Richards forms the Right to Censor in 2000, the middle of 2000. So we're keeping Val Venus. We're keeping the Good Father.
Damn right.
We're keeping Bobby Cannon, of course.
Fucking right you are.
The linchpin of the Right to Censor. We can't get rid of this guy.
It holds it all together.
Yeah, he's the glue, And we're keeping Ivory because I love Ivory. She's the best. And she was so good as a heel. She's just, she got it, So, where am I? Oh yeah, so that's the group. We're gonna keep that group pretty much all the way it is, for the moment. So in my last one I did that the tag team division is pretty locked up at the moment with the Dudleys, the Hardys, Edge Christian, and Perry Saturn and Dean Malenko. All covered in my last episode. So for the moment, we're not going to worry too much about the tag team, the championships. But there are other tag teams to go after. So let's say Too Cool that in real life the Right to Censor went after. So let's do that thing at SummerSlam where they had the 6-man tag team match. Too Cool versus the Right to Censor. So obviously
Scott Hottie.
Mr. Scott Hoddington and
Ricky Ishii, yeah.
Grandmaster Sexay is really hard to fix that one.
Grand Sex.
Yeah, that one needs some work, I think. But it's a work in progress. We'll sort that one out soon. So the Right to Censor want to go after Too Cool because they think that they're just like, some naive idiots that they can very easily convert to their side. It turns out that the Too Cool, Scotty Johati and Grandmaster are two idiots, but the fact that they're too naive to understand what the Right to Censor are talking about. You know what I mean? They're just like, what are you guys talking about? We're just dancing. Just what's the problem? We're just doing a little dance, However, Rikishi is another story. Rikishi's a smart boy. He can see the Too Cool are just languishing in the mid card and not going anywhere. Whereas the Right to Censor could be a group you want to attach your name to. So Rikishi has had enough with the Too Cool, and he joins the Right to Censor.
Are you going to cover up Rikishi's ass?
Yeah. No more. Well, he maybe, I don't know if I'll keep the stink face, but he'll be a lot because, that's debauchery. That's so degrading. Oh no, we won't have any of that in my future. No sir. So now he's like the big old muscle for the group. You know what I mean? Because Rikishi's a big guy. It's gonna be tough to really challenge that group now that they're all aligned together.
Yeah.
So now that we've got Rikishi on our side, they start to be a little bit more like menacing and like intimidating. You know what I mean? They're not going straight in and like beating the shit out of people, but they're kind of like, we're always watching you. We're always right here. Do you want to mess with Rikishi? He's a tough guy. So they're Right to Censor are working a kind of like intimidation angle, a little bit like the mafia, but you know what I mean? Like whenever you think something crazy is going to happen, the Right to Censor kind of turn up backstage and they're like, you better watch yourself. You don't want to get into any trouble. You know what I mean? At the same time, while they're doing this, so we're talking like maybe September, August, September kind of time in 2000, Stevie Richards is trying to like cozy up to the people backstage. He's trying to get into like production meetings, trying to make it seem like he's working from the inside to really make a difference. You know what I mean? It's all well and good to come out and beat up a guy called Mr. Ass, but somebody must have made that decision to put him on television in the first place. So if Steven Richards can work with the company out of the love of his own heart to try and change the company into something a little bit better, while of course his henchmen are running around the actual arena like intimidating people and doing all this stuff, like they're fed up with the Dudley Boys putting people through tables, as you can understand. They're fed up with the APA drinking all the time and doing all their business, cigars and gambling and stuff. It's just a bad thing to show your children. You know?
Totally.
You don't want your children drinking and smoking and gambling and drinking. You don't want that. So they sometimes will get involved with the Dudley Boys. They'll sometimes get involved with the APA. A lot of it's with Rikishi and Bull Buchanan. I thought they would be good, like muscle guys. Yeah. So that's kind of like their tag team bit. Okay. But for the most part, they're not going after the tag team championships because they don't need them. And they're not happy with Taz because, as we've covered in another episode, Taz is this crazy hardcore champion.
Yeah.
But at the same, like both sides understand each other. Like Right to Censor don't really want to mess with Taz because he'd fucking kill them. But at the same time, Taz doesn't really want to have a go at the Right to Censor because he's like, if I am fighting 4 guys at once, it's gonna leave the door open for like a sneak attack. Somebody could steal my championship. I'll just stay away from the whole thing. So they're kind of making waves, but quietly. You know what I mean? They're being very intimidating. So I have it that in September, Val Venus defeats Al Snow for the European Championship. So already, tag team championships out of reach for the moment, but European Championship, it's all good. Val Venus, and he's the former European champion, I believe. So he's
a Eurocontinental champion, wasn't he?
I think that was D'Lo Brown.
Are you sure Val Venus didn't win the Intercontinental and the European title at the same time?
He won them both, but not at the same time.
I don't believe you.
Google that too.
All right, go for it.
Google that right after you Google Dr. Enos.
Oh, I found out more about the Enos family. Yeah, Enos was a last name in the 1800s. Yeah.
Wow, so there could have been a Dr. Enos back then.
Yeah, I mean, they zoned out after 1911, but back in the 1880s, like 25% of Enuses were blacksmiths, 25% were farmers, 13% were carpenters, and 13% were clergymen. So,
see, this is why people listen to this podcast, man, for the facts.
Yeah,
You know, we got the goods, we got the real facts up here. The answers to all the questions people really wanted to know.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you tuned into this podcast for, right?
I assume so.
Yeah.
Also, to hear me talk about the right to censor.
Exactly.
So, obviously the right to censor they're targeting Al Snow not just because he's a champion, but because he's Al Snow. He's unpredictable. He's very, a hardcore beast. Very kind of erratic and strange. However, Al Snow manages to avoid joining the right to censor because of that erratic strangeness. They just can't get a grip on him. So I had like Al Snow and Val Venus kind of having a feud over the European Championship. I would have Al win the European Championship back at Armageddon. I think I wrote either in November or December. I can't remember which one. So after that, Al Snow would do his thing with William Regal that we all love. So I just kind of pushed it back a little bit, Around about the same time, kind of September, I have Goodfather starting a feud with Eddie Guerrero, who is the Intercontinental Champion, he's actually just pinned China, who is his valet and Mamacita, as we all remember. So it's justified. Goodfather goes after Eddie Guerrero because he was fighting with a woman, and he's very kind of it's the whole Latino heat angle. Right to censor, they're not happy about it.
Yeah,
it's too much. So I have the Goodfather going over Eddie Guerrero at No Mercy, which was in October. So he wins the Intercontinental Championship. So now we've got Ivory Women's Champion, Val Venus European Champion, the Goodfather Intercontinental Champion. And again, he was a former Intercontinental Champion as well. So like it's going after their strengths. You know what I mean? So what else have I written down? At Survivor Series, I have had Taz fighting Triple H. In the previous Taz episode.
Sure.
So I have retconned it where Rikishi wasn't the one that ran over Steve Austin.
So he didn't do it for The Rock.
No, because that was garbage. Now Rikishi is the muscle for the right to censor. It's a very, very different thing. So at the moment, we're in September, November, I think. It's Survivor Series. Mm-hmm. So we've had, Stevie Richards working backstage and doing all his business. And we've got the other guys kind of intimidating the tag teams. You got Val Venus, European Champion, Goodfather, Intercontinental Champion, Ivory, Women's Champion. At Survivor Series, I had, what did I have? Rikishi, Goodfather, Bull Buchanan, and Val Venus fighting against Al Snow, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, and Chris Jericho. It makes sense. Those are pretty big contenders, Al Snow maybe not, but like he was a former European champion. It all makes sense. And the right to censor win because, Benoit doesn't really get on with Jericho, etc., etc. So at Armageddon, I have Triple H and Austin kind of finishing up their business. You'll see why I'm talking about the main event scene soon enough. But Triple H and Austin finish up whatever rivalry they had, where Austin believes that Triple H ran him over, etc. Steven Richards finally gets into the ring at Armageddon. So we're in November now, and Richards has been a bit coy about wrestling. But we're finally going to get a match. Who are they going to fight? The Undertaker. So the Undertaker, by November, is like, I've had it up to here. These fucking right to censor pricks. You know what I mean? I'm the Undertaker. I could fight all of the members of Right to Censor at once in a match if I wanted to. Oh.
Does Undertaker still win?
Well, there's only one way to find out. So like I said earlier, at Armageddon, I had Val Venus lose dropped the championship back to Al Snow. So he's not in this match. So we've got Goodfather, Bull Buchanan, Rikishi, and Stevie Richards to fight The Undertaker. All right, it's still 4 against 1. Taker wins by disqualification. After the right to censor, just like, they don't just gang up on him in the match, but they like drag him backstage and they start to like cover him and shit. You know, like start to tear down the stage and bury him with it. And
wow, all right.
They tried, because he's the Undertaker. Beating him in a match isn't going to do anything. But you want to stop the Undertaker.
Yeah,
that's the trick. So they're trying to bury him on the crap and just get rid of him. So obviously after that, Taker's a little bit pissed off. He's like, this sucks. I want to beat the fuck out of them, not be trapped under all this crap. So that is in December, I believe. So, we've seen the right to censor kind of getting involved a little bit. They're doing a good job of like spreading themselves out a lot, covering a lot of bases, And we've still got Stevie Richards working his way backstage. By this point, he is now like a member of the board because he's representing like the parent for TV Council or whatever the fuck, He's like representing those guys. He's like, they needed to have an impartial voice on their side. It can't all be like pro wrestling guys. You needed a guy like Stevie Richards on there for impartiality. You know what I mean? For fairness. Mm-hmm. So during the Royal Rumble, we have, what have I written? The other members of the right to censor all enter before Steven Richards does. All right. So what have we got? Bull Buchanan, Rikishi, the Goodfather, Val Venus. Those 4 guys, they go in before Stevie Richards. Quite a coincidence. But with these 4 guys like in the ring, they start like cutting through the Rumble. It's like Hydra, you're not fighting one guy, you're fighting 4 guys.
Yeah.
Which is hard in the Royal Rumble. It's hard enough fighting one guy. So eventually, at like spot number 30, last spot on the card, Stevie Richards finally makes his entrance in the Royal Rumble. And he has a really good easy time of it because the rest of the right to censor are cleaning house. Because there's 4 of them. It's in the numbers game.
Yes.
So it comes down to the final 5, I think I've written, which is, well, I guess it's the final 6, but it's basically The Undertaker versus the right to censor.
Okay.
Again, see? Continuity. So obviously Taker's pissed at the way that stuff went down at Armageddon. So he starts like going all after them and he starts to eliminate the right to censor. He's the one guy that couldn't eliminate, or that was doing what nobody else could do. Nobody else could eliminate all the members of the right to censor, but Undertaker's coming in here and he eliminates Val Venus.
Sure.
He eliminates the powerhouse Bull Buchanan.
Oh!
He eliminates the Goodfather. All right?
No reaction.
Yeah, fuck him. Screw that guy. But while he's eliminating these people, he's suddenly distracted by Rikishi, who's still in the ring. Ooh. So the other guys outside the ring start like trying to pull the Undertaker out. You know what I mean? They're distracting him. They help Rikishi push the Undertaker over the top rope.
Oh my God!
Undertaker's out of
the
Royal
Rumble. Ground.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Because the other guys like pull him down. Like he goes over the top rope and they pull him to make sure he can't at the bottom. He's team unity. You know what I mean? So then Stevie Richards gets on the mic, and he's like, "It's just you and me, Rikishi. Out you go." Rikishi goes over the top rope. Stevie Richards is won.
Oh, really? Not even a turn? Like, Rikishi just jumps over?
Rikishi just jumps over.
Nice, all right.
Stevie Richards has won the 2001 Royal Rumble.
Stevie Richards is going to WrestleMania.
Stevie Richards, who had like 2 matches, one against Too Cool, one against The Undertaker, is going to WrestleMania.
Nice.
So, No Way Out, in between the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, Undertaker is pissed. He's like, fuck you guys. You fucked me at Armageddon. You fucked me at the Royal Rumble. Not having it. So, now we have another match. No Way Out. The Royal Rumble winner against the Undertaker. Mm-hmm. What's the best way to kill the Undertaker?
Buried alive.
Casket match.
Oh, okay.
So during the match, whenever the Undertaker has the upper hand, the other members of the right to censor sit in the coffin. because he can't throw Stevie Richards into the coffin if it's full.
If there's a whole lot of RTC in there,
Can't close the lid.
your
You know what I
coffin's
mean?
filled with RTC.
It's coffin filler, yeah, exactly. So now Taker's fighting against everybody. Because also, what are the rules to a casket match?
You gotta put him in a casket.
Right. But no disqualifications? Is
Right?
that right?
Yeah.
So the other members of the Right to Censor could beat the fuck out of the Undertaker.
Sure. Yeah.
So there you go. Now he's fighting like 5 or 6 people at once. And it's just a numbers game. It's just the way it is. The Right to Censor helps Stevie Richards lock the Undertaker in a casket.
Mm.
Now, a lot of people would say this sounds like kind of unbelievable. Like, one, wrestling's unbelievable. Shut the fuck up. But two, like, it's a casket match. You know what I mean? Like, shenanigans can happen. It's not a straight one-on-one match. You know what I mean? It makes sense. But it also looks really good for Stevie Richards because he beat The Undertaker.
Yeah.
So that looks good in the history books. Stevie Richards wins the Royal Rumble, has beaten The Undertaker. So, okay. He's got some clout going in. So I had The Rock as the heavyweight champion going into WrestleMania.
Okay.
Now, you know what really happened at WrestleMania 2001?
Mm-hmm.
With Steve Austin against The Rock.
Heel turn.
And the heel turn, Vince McMahon screws over The Rock, sides with Steve Austin.
Yeah.
Everybody's shocked. Nobody liked it. Right?
I liked it.
At the time.
I liked it now.
Well, okay. Well,
I thought it was a good turn. It makes sense. I would rather see that than just a Stone Cold versus The Rock match.
but what if it wasn't Stone Cold versus The Rock?
What if it was Stevie Richards?
What if it was Stevie Richards versus The Rock? So, I mean, it might happen. Let's see.
Maybe, I don't know.
What happens?
I'm still waiting for this Bill Buchanan kind of swerve.
I mean, you're not going to get it with Bill Buchanan, but there may be a swerve or two coming up.
The Rock versus B Squared. Do you remember B Squared?
I do. John Cena is like...
Lackey.
Yeah.
Or guy. I don't know what you call him.
I mean,
Homie. There we go.
Yeah, he's a homie, yeah.
That sounds so cool. Yeah, it's a homie, yes.
Yes,
I believe they call it a homie, yes.
I believe the terminology you're looking for, my good friend Bryce, is homie. If I am not mistaken. I've got that. If I'm reading this card correctly, it's a homie? I think that's correct. Anyway, whatever. So we're going into WrestleMania. Stevie Richards is Royal Rumble winner. Val Venus Intercontinental Champion. Ivory still Women's Champion.
Oh.
So then Stevie Richards, because he works on the on the board now, works behind the scenes. He starts pulling some strings. So Val Venus is added to the Al Snow, William Regal, Eddie Guerrero Triple Threat Championship match at WrestleMania.
Okay.
So for the European Championship. So now Val Venus has a chance to win his belt again. I had Goodfather defending against Chris Jericho for the Intercontinental Championship. Ivory against China. And, this is all basically because Stevie Richards is on the board and is like pulling these strings and stuff like this. And so this goes even further. The Tag Team Championships, as we all know, were defended in the TLC match, the Dudleys,
Yes.
Hardys, Edge and Christian. That stays the same. And I think Edge and Christian won that. So I'm keeping that because that was fucking awesome, right? However, when the match is over, it's announced that whoever won that match now has to defend the belts against the Right to Censor.
Nice.
Which is Bill Buchanan and Rikishi, who obviously win the belts.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're looking pretty fucking sweet on the Right to Censor table, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Over a couple of months, they've slowly been building up to be a legitimate team, and now they have almost all the gold. They don't have the light heavyweight championship because whatever, and they don't have the heavyweight championship. But we've still got Stevie Richards versus The Rock to go.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see how that goes. Now, obviously, by the time Stevie Richards comes out, he has like nuclear heat on him. You know what I mean? Like, not only because everybody hates the Right to Censor, but because he won the Royal Rumble. Like, people are pissed about that. He beat The Undertaker. People are pissed about this. Him like weaseling his way and clearly using his position on the board to pull strings to get him to where he is.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, clearly he got on the board to make sure that he had the number 30 spot in the Royal Rumble. And that the Right to Censor were all at the, positioned at the right places in the Rumble so that they'd all be together. This is all because of Stevie Richards being on the board. And they're like, the fans just hate it because they're like, we don't like the way this is going. This is ridiculous. And The Rock, of course, is great. Fucking reception because he's The Rock, but also because they're like, he's gonna beat the fuck out of Stevie Richards. You know what I mean? It's gonna be amazing. So obviously, a match happens. The Rock, Stevie Richards. I mean, Stevie Richards is a very good wrestler.
Yeah, he's good technically. Yeah, I don't know if he's a technical wrestler, but he's got good basics. Good.
He can work a match.
Yeah.
Same with The Rock. Rock can work a match to anybody. So these guys have a really good match. Surprisingly good match because Stevie Richards never got the chance to show how good of a wrestler he was. And everybody hates Stevie Richards, but that's also because they don't know how good of a wrestler he is. They've never seen him wrestle. You know what I mean? So they're like anything he does is going to be a surprise because they don't know he can do anything. So at the end of this, Vince McMahon turns on The Rock, hits him in the chair, screws over The Rock to help Stevie Richards. Right? Kind of like what happened in real life, but only with Stevie Richards.
Right.
Why would Vince McMahon do that?
Why would he?
Because in all the time that Stevie Richards has been working on the behind the scenes stuff and working on the board, he's been getting in people's ears. He's been able to like big up the fact that times are changing.
Yeah.
He's talking to Vince McMahon and he's saying, like it or not, the PC era is going to happen, which it eventually did anyway. But he's saying, dude, it's just the way things are going. You're going to spiral up the violence and it's just going to end up with you being PC anyway. You know it's true. Vince, in his heart of hearts, realizes that his company is going to end up being a PC company sooner or later. And the smart thing to do is to just accept that the Right to Censor are probably going to be that group that transitions them from the Attitude Era to the PC era. So that's why he turns.
Nice.
So there you go. There's a reason behind it. Like why did Vince McMahon turn on Rocky and help Steve Austin? Like what was the thing?
I honestly could not remember the reason for that. So yeah,
Right.
beyond me.
So already I'm giving you fucking things to do. So everybody's fucking pissed about this. Stevie Richards walks out of WrestleMania.
I'm pissed.
And we haven't even got to the good stuff yet.
Oh, well, I'm pissed.
Well, you should stop drinking. Thank you very much. So right after WrestleMania, as you know from I think my last podcast, I had the invasion happening.
Yes.
So I was still undecided whether or not like to bring in the big guns like Nash and Hall and Goldberg and stuff like this.
Sure.
But I thought it's still a pretty safe bet to say that Booker T and DDP are going to be big news. You know what I mean? They're still going to be big deals. So I had them in, gunning for the top. DDP goes after The Rock to see which one of them really is the people's champion. And Booker T goes after Steve Austin just because that was funny when they fought in the supermarket. So just fucking have that happen. So Stevie Richards kind of like manages to float by for a little bit as the champion because of all the chaos going on. You know what I mean? He can kind of get away with it. Nobody knows what side they're on or who wants to do whatever. It's very hard to, figure out what's happening. So Stevie Richards can kind of like skip under the radar. At Backlash, Kane wants to fight Stevie Richards, but he's busy with Taz. Kane wants to get revenge for his brother, but he's already busy with Taz. So Kurt Angle steps up to have a go at Stevie Richards. And I think that would be a fun match, Kurt Angle versus Stevie Richards.
Yeah.
But again, because of the uncertainty about the whole show, about the WCW wrecking stuff and nobody knowing what's going on and the Right to Censor still being in Stevie Richards' corner, Stevie Richards beats Kurt Angle to sneak away with the heavyweight championship. Oh, big news. I have also written that around about this time, I had the Good Father lose the Intercontinental Championship to Chris Jericho.
Okay.
So the wheels are starting. It would seem like the wheels are going to fall off the Right to Censor right now. They were on top of the mountain.
So that's not looking good.
As you know, once you're at the top, the only place to go is down. So let's see what happens to the Right to Censor. I'm still going. You know what I mean? Like there's still more. So after Backlash, which was Kurt Angle versus Stevie Richards, it looks like things are going to start to fall apart for the Right to Censor because the war between WWF and WCW is still getting really big. It's getting so big that like the Right to Censor don't really have a voice anymore. It was easy for them to decry the WWF for being violent, but once the WCW have joined in and they're making it extra violent, they're like, well, who do we attack? What do we do? Like, it's hard.
Yeah.
hard for them to keep focus. So I had Judgment Day in May. Val Venus loses the European Championship. You'll like this, to Hurricane Helms.
Oh, nice. I love the Hurricane.
Yeah, so there you go. You know, that's a victory for WCW right there. They got the European Championship. I had Ivory lost the Women's Championship to China at WrestleMania. I thought that was a good storyline that should stay the way it is.
Sure.
But because China left shortly after that, Ivory gets the belt back, so she beats Lita to win the championship back. Edge and Christian eventually, so she's still champion again. Edge and Christian somehow beat Rikishi and Bull Buchanan for the tag team championships. So Stevie Richards is like, this is tough. This is not looking good for my faction, right? Even though I'm on the board, like, what am I going to do? Like, this is tough. And then the main event is going to be The Rock versus Steve Austin versus Stevie Richards for the heavyweight championship.
Okay.
So Stevie Richards knows he's in trouble because The Rock is pissed because he beat him for the championship. And Austin's pissed because he's always pissed. You know what I mean? He should stop drinking
beer.
Yeah, see, we got to call back to our own fucking joke. All right, so you ready for... You there should be something's got to go on here. You know, how is Stevie Richards gonna be able to run out of here with his championship?
Wow.
So what I've done is, what do you think? How do you think Stevie Richards is gonna run out of here with the championship?
I have no idea. I have no earthly idea how he can leave the champ. How does he do it?
Well, I'll tell you, man. He has help. Obviously, he's help, but he's got help from somebody who hasn't been seen in the WWF for a long time.
Ooh. Oh, no way. It's not the NWO, is it?
Somebody whose contract was bought by the WWF whenever they purchased WCW.
Lance Storm.
Somebody from that company comes and helps Stevie Richards.
Mike Awesome.
You're incorrect. I'll give you one more go.
From WCW.
I believe he was, as I understand it, his contract was bought over by the WWF in 2001 from WCW.
Chris Kanyon.
No. That was your guess.
Yeah, I've got nothing. I don't know who we got. Who?
Okay, so we got the triple threat match.
Yes.
Steve Austin.
Steve Austin.
We've got The Rock.
Got The Rock.
We've got Stevie Richards.
You got Steven Richards. The three biggest names of the Attitude Era.
Well, remember that, a big name from the Attitude Era, because somebody comes and helps to interfere, helps Richards sneak away with the championship. Because the triple threat, I believe, is also no DQ, right?
Yeah, of course. You can't get disqualified because who wins?
Bingo. So somebody comes and interferes and helps Stevie Richards win. And it's somebody that everybody recognizes. He runs down to the ring. People don't think he's going to help Stevie Richards, but then he does. Turns heel. Bad guy. He's a bad man. But everybody instantly knows exactly who it is.
Can I get one more guess?
Yes.
Is it Bret Hart?
No.
Oh.
You want to know?
Yes.
Goldust.
Fucking Goldust.
Yeah.
All right.
Goldust. The like before the Right to Censor happened, he was like the one person they would totally railed against.
Right. Okay.
The one person, like, he's so flamboyant, he's whatever. He turns up with the face paint, comes down to the ring, and screws over The Rock and Austin.
Motherfucker.
Right?
Wow.
He gets a towel at ringside. He rubs the face paint off his face.
Nice.
He's like, I'm not Goldust. I'm Dustin Runnels.
Yes.
I've had enough of this shit. I'm on their side. I'm on the Right to Censor side.
I like it.
So,
I love it.
It's the ultimate swerve. Nobody's gonna see that because Goldust is the kind of guy that would never fall for that, and he does. So now we're after Judgment Day. Stevie Richards is still champion. We're going into the King of the Ring. So now they got to fucking worry about WCW and WWF and the Right to Censor. And now they got to worry about who's going to be the King of the Ring. So about this point, we're heading to SummerSlam. Perry Saturn and Dean Malenko, as covered in my last episode, reveal that they're actually part of ECW.
Right.
Yes. So they decided ECW are a thing now. So now Stevie Richards is the WWF champion. He's got the WCW hounding after him. He's in the Right to Censor, and the ECW group has suddenly reared their head. So what's he gonna do? What's Stevie Richards gonna do?
You tell me.
I'll tell you what he's gonna do. He's gonna side with ECW.
Oh,
he
nice.
he turns his back on the right to censor
Okay.
and escapes with the championship again. So now, the day after that, the day after King of the Ring, Monday Night Raw, everybody's like, we got to tune in, we got to see what happens, right? Stevie Richards comes out and he explains it all. He's not wearing a white shirt anymore. He's not wearing his tie. He's surrounded by his ECW friends.
Nice.
He's got the World Heavyweight Championship, the WWF World Heavyweight Championship in his hands. And he tells everybody the right to censor thing was just a fucking ruse. Like, he knew the way that stuff was going to go. He could see it. He could predict it coming. So he was like, why don't I get ahead of the curve and use it for my own advantages? Why don't I start making this storm myself and like bearing the brunt of it and like making it seem like I care about morality and stuff like this? Because if I do this, I'll be the one to be able to get closer to the board meetings and Vince McMahon. And if I'm closer to him, then I can make stuff start to go my way, and I can make it seem like I'm changing the world for the better. But really what I'm doing is making me the focus of everything.
Nice.
Stevie Richards. So we can work his way up and, work backstage and manipulate himself. And so really, he didn't really care about the right to censor. It was just a means to the end to get to the championship. But now that he's at the top of the championships, status, he doesn't care about the WWF because they held him down and just did dumb stuff with him and didn't listen to him.
Yeah.
Ever. Doesn't want to go back to WCW because they fired him after like 6 months or whatever. Fuck WCW. He's here with the ECW. Nobody saw it coming. Nobody would have given Stevie Richards the time of day. Nobody gave ECW the time of day. And nobody gave any of the people in ECW the time of day. But now they're all together. They've got all eyes on them. And they've got the World Heavyweight Championship.
Incredible.
So fuck everybody. Now, the ECW is taking over. And everybody better watch the fuck out.
Nice.
So from here, right to censor continues. But Goldust is the leader. Now he's Dustin Runnels. Now he's
Runnels, yeah.
So he's like taking control of the right to censor, so they're not dead. So now we have, in my rewriting of the Attitude Era, we have the WWF, the WCW, ECW, and the right to censor as 4 different distinct notable groups.
Wow.
All fighting each other, and it's not even SummerSlam 2001. So there you go. It's my right to censor story.
Incredible.
Right?
I love it. Honestly, do you know what the one thing I was thinking is that you're working up towards the invasion angle, and I was thinking like, so Stevie Richards is this whole PC kind of thing, like PG, all of that. ECW are going to come in soon and fuck shit up because they are not PC, they are not PG. They're gonna throw chairs at people. They're gonna be violent. Sandman's gonna come in. He's gonna drink everywhere. It's going to that's going to be a feud made in heaven. ECW versus RTC. Exactly. I did not see Stevie Richards joining ECW. That's awesome.
See, that was the hook. Like, he did that. And remember last time we were like, how did Perry Saturn and Dean Malenko know what's coming next?
Yeah.
How do they know ECW's coming in?
That's it.
Stevie Richards works on the board. He can open the doors. He can position ECW in exactly where he wants them to be. So that when they do take over, everything's lined up like dominoes.
My God,
see this?
I love it. I can't believe you've made Stevie Richards a legitimate top guy.
And the right to censor, like,
and RTC and fucking Goldust as well. He's now the leader of like the 4th faction in the invasion angle. Like, that's incredible.
Yeah. Didn't I promise you this was gonna be my best one yet?
That's your best one yet.
There you go. I don't think I disappointed. I think I delivered.
I think I like this better than Taz. Like, Taz was pretty damn good, but
I'm so fucking pleased with this one. Like, you've no idea. When I came up with the Goldust bit, I'm like,
my God,
flip his shit. Like, he's not gonna see it. Nobody could have seen that coming.
No. I mean, I was guessing fucking Bret Hart and the NWO. And
yeah.
But
I think Goldust was one of those guys, like the NWO, who had his contract bought out, but they just didn't use him.
I didn't know that, to be honest. That was beyond me, but I'm not going to look it up. That's incredible.
Goldust came back in like 2002.
Yeah, because was he not? Goldust was like, what was his name, 7 or something in WCW, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Really silly gimmick.
And then he was like, this isn't really me. It's just, they made me do it. I'm like, that's such a dumb angle.
Yeah.
But I'm like, but if he comes out as Goldust, fucking everybody knows who Goldust is.
Yeah, he got massive pop, and then eventually he turns heel.
Pure heel heat.
Yeah.
because
Go
I don't know. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I'm fucking incredible at this. Bryce,
Dylan.
if you're so excited about that whole storyline, maybe you could like pick your jaw up off the floor for a second, and we could maybe play a little. Yeah, pretty good. And maybe play a little bit of Kayfabe Tombola.
A little bit hashtag Kayfabe Tombola.
Yeah, like if you can do it, if your mind hasn't been totally blown.
It's not totally blown. It's like partially blown.
It's
So
very-
no,
it's
I've
pretty
still
close.
got some. I've still got some room for some from Kayfabe Tombola.
All right, everybody's favorite part of the show, except for the rest of this Right to Censor podcast, which I imagine is going to be everybody's favorite now. It's my favorite. It's the best thing I've ever done.
It's gonna be everyone's favorite part of the show for every show.
Yeah, like do you
Yeah.
remember Right to Censor? I'm like, fuck yeah, classic.
The next few episodes is looking back in the RTC storyline. Like, you know, what a
Yeah.
great storyline. Like reliving it. You know, yeah, if you're going over it, the highlights.
Well, I was
all
gonna
that.
say, in like a couple of months, like we'll do like a best of episode, and it's just
the RTC.
the Right to Censor one again. Like, boy, that was good.
I tell you what, I've got a hell of a storyline here. I don't even know what you've got. I don't even know what names or what situations you've got, but I'm confident I can make a great story out of this. So who have you got?
Okay, do you want to hear the suggestions first, or do you want to pick them and then
All
I
right, give me 1A.
1A.
Yes.
Oh, you are in for a treat, my friend.
Oh.
You're in for a treat. So you could have had Headbanger Thrasher.
Oh.
You could have had Molly Holly.
Oh.
You could have had Steve Blackman.
Ah.
You didn't. You picked Seth Rollins.
All right. Cool.
You could have had Seth Rollins bringing Steve Austin out of retirement for one more match.
Mhm.
You could have had that. You could have had Seth Rollins accidentally winning the heavyweight championship.
Okay.
You know, like Vince Russo did, like accidentally get
Oh,
fucked out of the cage or whatever, you know.
yeah.
You could have had Seth Rollins. Oh, I wrote this one like right before we recorded because I couldn't think of a fourth one. So I wrote Seth Rollins gets lumbered with a new gimmick, which is where he's a disgruntled miner.
Okay.
You know, like a miner that goes and like looks for coal on
Yeah.
the shrine, but he's angry about it.
He's just gone. Yeah.
Yes. But he gets it over, like he gets that angle over.
Right.
You didn't get that one anyway.
Where did I get?
You got Seth Rollins. Are you ready for this?
No.
Seth Rollins falls in love with a mop.
Ah.
Callback. It's another callback.
The return of Moppy.
Another callback. We're full of callbacks. So I'm going to put 1 minute on the clock, and then you're going to have to tell me a logical way that Seth Rollins falls in love with a mop. Are you ready for this, Bryce?
I honestly don't think I am.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna start it. I'm gonna count you down. All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, so there was a Hall of Fame ceremony at WrestleMania, let's say 34, and it's a different kind of Hall of Fame. It's they're inducting objects from WWE's past. So you've got the plant that Dean Ambrose had, you've got Al Snow's head, you've got all these things, but you've also got Moppy, who's like the special guest, the celebrity wing of the Hall of Fame ceremony. So, and inducting him is inducting Moppy is Perry Saturn, but in the audience at the Hall of Fame ceremony, you know how you get all the superstars all lined up in front of them, and then you get the fans behind them. Seth Rollins is looking at Moppy, and he just falls in love. Like he's watching this promo package, and he's like, "Oh my god, that is a mop for me. I've had a spilled can of Coke in my kitchen for so fucking long, and that is a mop. I want to clean it up." So, Seth Rollins, he interferes in the Hall of Fame ceremony. He runs up and he grabs Moppy and he runs
That's
away
it.
with her,
That's
and
time.
they live happily ever after. And that's my kayfabe tombola.
I like it. I really like the idea that he'd be like at the Hall of Fame and he just looks up and he's like, "Yeah, there's a mannequin head. Yeah, whatever. There's potted plant. Whoa, who's that hot piece of ass standing beside Perry Saturn?" Like he's like it cut. You know what they always cut to the audience at the Hall of Fame? Like they just cut to Seth Rollins. He's like, his mouth is open. He's like, "What the?" He's got like little hearts in his eyes and shit.
You gotta imagine though, like Moppy's like that's like 20 years, so Moppy's aged. It's just an old mop, and it's
Also-
like you got wrinkles and shit on it, and like
Well, also they killed Moppy. Do you remember this?
Oh, they put her through
Yeah.
a tree. Fucking what do you call it?
We even put her through a wood chipper.
A wood chipper, not a tree shredder. The wood chipper.
Tree shredder.
Yes, tree shredder.
Yeah. So they had to glue Moppy back together.
Yeah.
And Seth Rollins still thought she was a hot piece of ass, you know?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he's into that kind of thing, isn't he?
He is.
Yeah.
That guy gets around, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So anyway, that was a good, I really like that answer. It was a lot of fun. Hopefully you guys listening, you enjoyed the right to censor bit. You enjoyed the little kayfabe tombola. Bryce did an excellent job at that. If you guys have any suggestions for like kayfabe tombolas you want to hear us do, or maybe some suggestions for the main show you want to hear us do, you can talk to us on Twitter. We're at Making Kayfabe on Twitter. Or if you want to send us a little bit of feedback or a little bit more kind of long form suggestions, you can do that. You can email us, makingkayfabe@gmail.com, or is it .co.uk? .com.
Yeah.
Makingkayfabe@gmail.com. We'll be able to read all your suggestions. We'll take some of them on board, especially any like kayfabe tombola stuff, because as you can see, being lumbered with a disgruntled coal miner gimmick, sometimes it's hard to come up with.
It's like picking the scraps. I also want to hear what you guys think about Bill Buchanan being in Stevie Richards' place and him becoming the world heavyweight champion instead of Stevie Richards. But you know, I'm sure that's what you guys are going to write anyway. But I mean, I just want to put that out there.
They'll probably be like, why wasn't Viscera part of the Right to Censor?
All right, that's the first time we've mentioned him all episodes.
I think so. We did. Oh no, what did we say? We mentioned him earlier for something.
Probably.
What did we say?
We've been known.
Oh, that he was imitating Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Of course, like Charlie Haas and Damien Sandow. Yeah, that's right.
Viscera. But anyway, yes, feel free to get in touch with us and you know, give us a couple of likes and give 5 stars on iTunes and stuff like that, because it really helps the show out and we really appreciate it. But I think that's the show. Is there anything else you want to say before we call it a day, Bryce?
Not at all. That's it.
Excellent. Well, in that case, we look forward to hearing from you guys and hearing your feedback, seeing what you guys thought about the show, what your kind of impressions would be. And we will see you in the next episode of Making Kayfabe, where my good friend Bryce will try to beat my Right to Censor story. Good luck with that. But thanks a lot.
I'll give it a good go.
Thank you very much, guys, for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Peace.